You know, I've started to realize over the past few years that, for whatever reason, I have trouble getting excited for new game releases. Upon reflection, this is probably because I'm exhausted from being burned by paying full price for a game, only to find it's unfinished. Which is more or less why I only just got around to playing We Happy Few. Now, in contrast to my opening sentence, I actually was very excited about this game. When I saw the first trailer a few years ago, I was in love with its unique premise, colorful 60s art style, and Orwellian atmosphere. I was so intrigued, in fact, that I picked this game up when it was still in alpha. This turned out to be a mistake, however, as it was one of those alphas that was really alpha. In other words, it was barely playable whatsoever. So I decided to wait for a bit and pick up the game when it was in its full release. Then I just never really got around to it until recently. But here I am. I've finished We Happy Few and even went out of my way to play through quite a few of the side quests. So, how was it? You know, they tried. They really did. Unfortunately, despite some great ideas, this game simply doesn't work. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's break this game down. So this game will have you following 3 separate protagonists, which is something I didn't know beforehand, but I'll get into that later. Protagonist number 1 is Arthur Hastings. Arthur lives in the dystopian society of Wellington Wells. The citizens here are proper upstanding members of the British Empire. They wave hello to each other, play Simon Says, take their literal happy pills, and may have done something horrible in order to ensure that the German army would leave them alone during World War II. You know, the usual. Arthur here remembers something while redacting the local newspaper, which inevitably leads to him going off of his happy pills, and thus made an outcast for being a downer. So, with his memories returning, and this horrible reality becoming ever more clear, Arthur must rediscover his past, attempt to fit in with both the wastrels and civilized folk, survive this Orwellian wet dream, and make it off the island. So the gameplay is actually pretty interesting. Wellington Wells is a very large open area with tons of quests and side quests to complete. As you level up, you unlock different abilities depending on your character, ranging from various combat bonuses to the local constabulary ignoring you past curfew. You can also find various bomb shelters for fast travel purposes, which also assist in crafting. You can craft weapons, clothing to blend in under different circumstances, and even medicines and drugs. Unfortunately, here's where the game starts falling apart for me. There's so much that you could potentially do and create, but not much for you to actually do. The main quest lines are pretty short for the most part, and although the side quests are pretty clever, I found little incentive to complete them as they mostly just gave extra experience points. Speaking of, most of the characters have unlockable abilities that make the game laughably easy. And these abilities can be unlocked pretty quickly, so most of the difficulty in the game, that difficulty being trying to blend in with civilized society, is completely negated. Oh, but let's talk about joy. Now these happy pills have an awesome effect in making everything look wonderful and happy. As they begin wearing off, everything looks a bit duller, and once you come down completely, you get sick and everything looks dreadful. And I can count on one hand the amount of times it is necessary to take joy in this game. Now, realistically, you don't want to take it often, because if you do, you'll begin suffering memory loss, which is more or less an extended period of withdrawal. But the only real time you're required to take these pills are going through checkpoints, which check to see if you're a downer, and even then there's a drug to trick them. On top of this, the joy doesn't prevent citizens from suspecting you if you start acting up. But I managed to brute force my way through Arthur's story, and while there were some hiccups in the gameplay, I did overall enjoy this narrative, as it did paint a vivid, wonderful, and intense picture of life in this Orwellian nightmare. Then I realized that there was an Act 2. And here is a dramatic reenactment of me playing through this act. Now, again, this is my own fault for not looking into the game. I legitimately did not know that this game had 3 acts. However, what I really don't like is playing through the game again, having to level up again, and for the most part, traveling through the exact same areas and having to unlock the fast travel locations again. Now, this new character, Sally Boyle, does have certain specialties as she is a chemist, so you can craft various drugs to help her both in and out of combat. However, the vast majority of her quests are nothing more than fetch quests, and will have you running in circles, all leading back to home base. I'm sorry, I mean, her story is actually pretty engaging, but good lord, I had exactly zero fun playing this act. Then Act 3 happened. I was fully prepared to rage quit at this point because any optimism for this game I held was beaten out of me. But you know what? It's not bad. This act has you playing as World War II veteran Ollie Starkey, who is also trying to escape the island with the help of the ghost of his daughter Margaret. While Ollie has the best combat bonuses of the three, he has to constantly keep his blood sugar in line, which was surprisingly not as frustrating as it sounds. And despite having to level up again, I will say that the twist in Ollie's story made it all worth it. You know, there were a lot of great ideas thrown into this game. The dystopian society, the vivid colors, and the deeply intricate backstory. Unfortunately, in practice, all of these pieces just don't work. I wanted to like this game, I really did. But in the end, it really seems like the devs just bit off more than they could chew. But hey, that's just my opinion, and if you're interested in checking out We Happy Few, it can be found on Xbox Live, the PlayStation Network, and Steam. Well, I'm afraid we have come to the end of our time. Do join us next time for another exciting episode of E-Dog Reviews. Bis